Hi guys, it's Mark Zickery, Mr. Sci-Fi. Merry Christmas. We're gonna just get the table thing going, and we will be happy to talk to everyone, and we shall get this all up and running. So let's see where we are. Okay, that's up and running, and get Elaine's thing up and running. Wanted to do an angle so you could see the Christmas tree. So there it is. Yay, Christmas tree with the Zickeries. Okay, great. Here, let me do this. I'll do this. And so if you have Mr. Sci-Fi questions or anything you'd like to know, then we will be happy to answer them. So let's see, do this. I don't know. Let's see, Gmail. You can actually move this closer if we'd like. Uh-oh, dog bed. There. Very hard to do. There we go. Okay, can you make sure that's stable? Thank you. And then Adam. Table meeting tonight. There we go. Here's the link. Yay! Merry Christmas. Do you have anything to say, Elaine?
Merry Christmas. Thank you for joining us.
If anyone is joining us,
anyone
we'll find out.
Yes,
I didn't announce it. So we shall see what we shall see. Launch meeting. Okay. Okay, here we are. Yay, Merry Christmas. Happy New Year. Okay.
We're waiting for that. Okay.
Waiting for this to come up.
Yes, and we wanted to share our tree. A little bit of Christmas.
Yes. We've been watching Three Godfathers, the original 1936 film, which is really, really good. And then we're going to watch the John Wayne one. So yes. Christmas movies. So we shall see what we shall see. There we go. There's that. Join with video. Okay. And here we are.
Hello.
Wait. They can't hear us anymore. Hi, guys. Hello, everyone. Merry Christmas. There we go. So we're
everybody, well done. So everybody mute your mics, please.
Yes. Now, David, I have a question for you. Are you also monitoring the Mr. Sci-Fi in terms of the questions that come in, or not? You are. Okay. Good.
I have you on two monitors. I can see you guys on the live stream too.
Great. So you can see us in 3D. That's great. So just put on your red green glasses. Merry Christmas, everyone. Hello, guys. So
almost Merry Christmas.
Yes, and you can see my Marvin the Martian tree topper there on the table feed, and we have a few people on Mr. Sci-Fi. So you know. Okay. Judith, you're now you know your mic.
I just have one strip on the side.
That's odd, but your mic is on also. So okay.
I know, but I'm trying to get it on. So
okay.
Oh, wow.
Well, so I guess David, do you want to?
What is it you have? What's going wrong, Judith? What do you see?
All I see is one strip on the side. So the whole screen isn't there.
I don't know.
Does anybody know what that would be?
One strip on the side.
Yeah, there you go. I see you. That's all I see.
Well, that's all you need to see. You know, I mean, he's sort of the whole enchilada, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, but I put on. You can't see me. I put on makeup tonight.
Yeah, well, if the light were in front of you rather than behind you, we would be able to see you.
The problem is the light.
There you go.
There you go.
Yeah,
okay,
that's
yay.
yay. That's
very pretty.
Spectacular.
Yeah, wow.
Can you move this screen back and forth? Like at the top, there's a white bar that says Zoom meeting. If you click on that, you drag it back and forth and make it where you want.
Oh, there you go. Now it's a screen. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Good. Okay. So Merry Christmas, everyone. Mr. Sci-Fi fans, table fans, everybody. We'll see what happens here. It's going to be pretty exciting. And we re-angled ourselves so you can see our Christmas tree. And I think that's pretty fun. And
pretty.
Yeah. So great. So I guess we might as well, Carol, why don't we start with you since you're at the top of my screen, and then we'll go from there.
Merry Christmas. I'm wearing lipstick for you all tonight.
Wow, that's great.
You are my Christmas date.
And there's Angelique. Welcome,
Hi,
Angelique.
yeah.
Hi. Merry
Where's
Christmas.
Angelique, I have missed you. I just want to tell you that.
Yeah.
Hey, Carol, I don't see you yet.
Hi, darling.
Hi.
Okay, so
Great.
It's my turn. So what do I have here? I did a Fritos commercial in
Wow.
2012, and it was for Christmas.
Great.
Look at this beautiful outfit I'm in. Did I ever show this? The ugliest thing in the world, a Christmas sweater and
Wow.
huge brown pants.
That's great. That's great. That's great. And of course, when people think Christmas, they think Fritos.
I usually do.
Of course.
Yeah, what do I have to? From AFM, I really met a lot of people.
Great.
It's very freaky deaky. Do you know RSA agency by any chance?
Yes, I've heard of them.
Okay, but not no specific intimacy.
Oh, just a bunch of indictments, but nothing beyond that. So, no, I mean, I've heard of them, but I really don't know much about them, but I haven't heard anything negative in that regard. So, I can't say yay or nay, but I have heard of them.
And David Firestone Management by any chance?
They make tires, but beyond that, I don't know. And I haven't heard of David Firestone, but I'm sure he's a biped. So
I'm just glad you're here tonight. I'm just, because I usually go to midnight mass tonight, and obviously we're not.
No.
And it was just so fine to be able to have a group of nice people in nice space.
Well, thanks, Carol. Thank you. And
one thing, if you're getting management, is to see who they manage.
Yes.
Try and find out who they manage.
Yes.
And see if their careers are the kind of careers that you would like.
Mm-hmm.
So if there's any way to get his client list off the net or some of it, that would be very helpful.
Yes. And also, because it is the end of the year and it's Christmas, one thing I can urge everyone to do is to write down a list of what they've been grateful for over the past year and what's gone well the past year, because we've all, had our challenges. But I think that focusing on what's gone well and who we love and who's with us in our lives. I mean, it's so great that we have the table and Mr. Sci-Fi and all these wonderful things that we've all managed to create. And so I'm very glad of that. And by the way, to let everyone know, if you have Netflix is now showing in very high definition a colorized version of It's a Wonderful Life that's really good. Really, really. I mean, usually colorization looks very bad, but this actually they took care with it. So I can recommend that. It was originally in black and white. It came out in 1947. Frank Capra directed it, and Jimmy Stewart stars in it, of course. And
but it's a brilliant performance.
It's got great actors. I mean, my God, it's pretty
I've never
amazing.
seen it in entirety. I think it's on TV tonight on Channel 7 or something.
Yeah. No, it's worth seeing beginning to end. It is a little bit of a long movie, but
marvelous.
it's great. Yeah, but in color, it really works. I recommend it. So Carol, is there anything you need at this point?
No, I was just having thoughts that there's some really good musicians in this group.
Yes.
And maybe at some point we can have a concert and raise money for a little cause or something.
Sure. No.
That would be great. I mean,
I know. I have a cause.
Yes, you do.
But your wallet?
The shelter in Houston get all those dogs. They're killing puppies indiscriminately.
Oh dear.
Yeah, and I'm going to call ASPCA. I'm going to ask everybody to call ASPCA in New York and get some of those dogs out of there. Shelters here are empty.
Wow, really?
Ship them all here.
Wow.
And save their lives. I want to do that.
Great.
That's a movement I'm going to start.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's going to be in the new year.
Yes.
That's beautiful, Judith.
Yeah.
I think I'm like sort of okay, but if anybody wants to lead us in a song later, I'd be more than happy to partake.
Okay, great. Yay. 3
Great.
cheers. Thanks, Carol. Yay. So now, do we have a Mr. Sci-Fi question, Mr. Bartlett?
We have a couple things that you could turn into a discussion.
Okay.
We have Scott Baker and Joseph
Mm-hmm.
who are discussing the fact that several people here seem to think that they thought you were Jewish, and why would you have a Christmas tree?
That's a very good question.
And then he says here.
Well, I can answer that very, very specifically. If the Nazis come, that'll fool them. No, that's not the.
Make it worse.
Go ahead, please.
This will hip hop on that. He says, Scott Baker says, "Merry Christmas to all Christians and consumerists."
Yes. The real answer to why we have a Christmas tree is that when I was a kid, I was raised socially as a Jew. My mom spoke Yiddish and fluently up in a Jewish neighborhood. So, but Christmas was, what most of us celebrated because it's such a better holiday in terms of just the swag. I mean, you get presents. Somehow my side of the family, just Hanukkah was always really shitty. You'd get like, a dreidel, And it's like, well, where's a real present? I want a GI Joe or something, you know. It's like, no, didn't that somehow that message never got through to Rabbi Claus. And so when I was a kid, we switched over, and you know, so Christmas trees. I like the look of Christmas trees. I like the ornaments, and the Christmas movies and the Christmas music. All that stuff is great.
So it was for both of us. We're not raised religiously.
Yeah, and Jesus was Jewish anyway.
We're not raised religiously. What we were seeking, though, was some form of celebration.
Sure. Yes.
And joy, and that's what was in our community, because my parents and his parents were both cut off from the
well, your parents were commies.
My parents were commies, and they were hostile to all religion.
Yes.
But since, you know, trees were everywhere and it was in the common culture, they let us like have this little bit of celebration, which my sister and I, in a rather gloomy family, would cling to anything that felt like celebration. We'd try and make a big deal. So we were actually isolated from any real religion, any religion. And my parents, as I said, were hostile toward that conceit being read.
Yeah, but it was.
You turn out to be a wonderful person.
Oh,
it's a miracle, isn't it? You know, it's like, it's funny because I can sort of see, I had a very loving mother, and I can see why I turned out at least halfway decent. But Elaine's a miracle because her parents were, you know, apple dolls, and you know, and so forth.
Honestly, she puts up with you.
Oh yeah, well that's she long suffering, just like you, Dave. You know, it's yes.
You're a lunatic.
Oh well, yeah. I'm definitely an acquired taste, as they say. But but it's great to be together with everyone for Christmas, and thanks for joining us. And
well, for the holidays.
For the holiday season, yeah. And you know, it's but it's very funny because I grew up in such a Jewish neighborhood that I didn't know that there were white people who weren't Jewish. I just assumed that every white person was Jewish. And I was 12 before I really understood that there were white people who weren't Jewish. And because that's how complete my neighborhood was in terms of, I mean, you know, and so that's interesting. But now I have a little wider view, thank God. So
an answer to my question, Elaine.
Yes.
Yeah.
How?
Well, one thing was, I mean, things get complicated, but no, one thing was that at least they had a very high sense of ethics.
Yes.
And they were like intellectuals. And so the books that I read were highly ethical. They were like Russian novels and very left books. And so the idea of being a good human being to your fellows was very present, you know, a sense of ethics. And they had all of these classical books to a degree where somebody had to give me a teen book when I was in my teens, and I'd been reading all this classic literature.
Yeah, nurse novel.
And they gave me a nurse novel, and I thought, this isn't well written. What is this?
It is crap. Yeah, really.
But that was part of it, and you know, you just sort of a lot of it was the literature that surrounded me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And she's just great, you know. So, yep. So, yeah. But thank you for the question, Mr. Sci-Fi adherent Scott Baker. So now I guess we can go to Bonnie. Bonnie, you're next on my screen.
Okay. Happy holidays to everybody.
Happy holidays.
Yeah, I grew up in a Jewish neighborhood too, and yeah. So yeah, some of the houses would have, of course, some people had Christmas trees, but. Yeah, some of the houses would have blue, white, and gold, and all, and yeah. I'm just working on this release of some Christmas music.
Yay!
It was a week ago Friday, so
great.
That's come out. So the website Some of All Music, and on Facebook, and a lot of different places. And just working on did some different Christmas songs, just a lot of different things, and it's supposed to be a film that I have that we hope to do whenever COVID breaks. They're raising more funding, but just waiting to do that, and just a lot of different things.
Great.
I'm sure there are other things I'm forgetting, but
well, you were elected.
You were elected, yes.
That's one thing that
for my 10th, let's see, 9th or 10th. 10th.
Yeah.
my 10th 2-year term.
Wow.
On the board of directors of the Musicians Union.
Yeah,
Wow.
but curiously, your opponent is claiming it was a rigged election and is trying to raise an insurrection among the musicians to have you thrown out. So yeah, well, you know, just roll with it. So.
True. And I'm on the board as a trustee and also convention delegate.
Wow.
And but a woman was elected for the first time president of the locals.
Wow.
Great.
That's great.
She's sharp.
Yeah.
So
wow.
Good things there, and just a lot of composing and
great
good music stuff happening. So.
Yay! Great. So is there anything you need, Bonnie? Anything we can do to be of use?
No, if anyone just needs anything musically, I'm already.
Okay, yay!
Yeah.
3 cheers. Excellent. So, David, is there a Mr. Sci-Fi question?
A comment that might strike a discussion.
Yes.
It's a Wonderful Life. Scott Baker thinks It's a Wonderful Life could be seen as a sci-fi story.
Well,
yes.
Yeah.
000 thinks It's a Wonderful Life is the first parallel universe story brought to the screen that I know of.
It's an interesting question. Elaine and I were talking about that. It's not science fiction because it isn't got a technological justification for the fantasy element, but it is a fantasy film, and it is a parallel universe story in the way that you see an alternative history had he not lived. And but it's a great film regardless. And the first parallel universe story I know of was written in 1936 by Murray Leinster. But in terms of films pursuing that notion, It's a Wonderful Life is the first one that I can think of as well. But yeah, that's accurate. That's true. Now, also for those who are new to either the table or Mr. Sci-Fi, on Thursdays at 5:30 during the pandemic, we do a simulcast between my YouTube channel, Mr. Sci-Fi, and my roundtable of writers and directors and actors and producers. So that's why we've got 2 screens up and running and are doing a little, tennis match between the 2. And so let's see. So I guess. Judith, I guess you're next on my screen.
We haven't spoken to David yet.
Yeah, I know, but Judith has her mic on. So.
Judith, can you tilt your screen so we can see more of your face? We're seeing just the upper half.
There you go.
Hey, okay.
Wow,
nice.
Amazing.
Yay.
Yay. Brilliant.
First of all, I want to tell you guys I had the best sleep last night that I've had in months.
Great.
That's great.
I've just been really looking for cleaning up the house, getting rid of old papers, throwing out old clothes, just trying to get myself together for the new year, and so I can just focus. And I'm also trying to find a puppy.
Yay!
I've gotten some very nice letters from shelters and stuff. I'm just not one. I started late. The puppies were starting to go last month, but I was busy with my cat. I'll find something. Okay. Or someone.
But if anyone, I should
this post about this shelter in Houston, and I really did not sleep all night.
Wow.
So I'm going to get. That's going to be. I'm going to try and start a movement. See if I can get all the shelters to go. I mean, I don't understand why they can't go on one database, because the shelters here, you can't find a puppy. They're all gone. It's all older dogs. And they should not give puppies away to kids who are younger than 12.
No.
Anyway, that's my thing. But there's some stuff to put into my script. But basically, I've just been trying to get my life together back and have it clean and clear for the new year.
Great. Okay. Well,
I've gotten a list of stuff that I want to get done. And one of the things that I'm very happy about, I spent a lot of time at physio this year. I didn't tell anybody, but I was going there every day.
Wow.
And I got the use of my leg back again. I can walk.
That's great.
That's great.
I mean, really walk, which I couldn't before.
Wow.
So that's a big deal.
Wow.
That's great. So anything else you need, Judith?
A puppy.
Okay, a puppy.
Well,
so if anyone has a puppy, throw them over to Judith.
Just that Judith is our dog, not our dog walker.
Dog sitter.
She's our dog sitter. And
when we go out of town, and they love her. They love her.
She's been with us through a couple of dogs and has been just amazing. And whenever we drive up to our dog sitter, we're jumping our dogs. I'm feeling guilty, and they're all happy, happy, happy.
And it's really surprising because until we started leaving our dogs with Judith, I had no idea how much they liked bourbon. So no, I'm joking. She doesn't give bourbon to dogs.
Funny because when dogs go when their owners go away, they go to the door. They go, oh my God, they don't.
Yeah.
Not with me. They
don't. No, it's great. No, it's a trip to grandma's. It's great. So, and by the way, for everyone, if you can mute your mic if you're not if it's not your turn, that's great because then we don't get all that cross. Oh no, I didn't mean you, Judith. It's your turn. So, anything else you need? Anything else?
No, I just want to find a puppy and get all that stuff together and get that out of the way so I can start training it and having a good time.
Okay, great.
Naming it.
Mm-hmm. Wow. I'm
naming it Zikri.
Wow, that's interesting. Great.
So that's what I'm looking for Zikri.
Wow. Well,
I'm write a new novel looking for Zikri.
Well, that's going to be interesting to see what it turns out to be. So, well, thanks, Judith. Okay. Well, Merry Christmas.
Judith, just make sure that when you call the dog, Mark and Elaine don't come over.
Right. Exactly. Yes. Exactly.
It's fine.
Yes.
Please let the pandemic be over.
Yes, I agree.
I'm on the top list for a vaccine.
Yeah.
So I should be getting it within 3 weeks or so.
Yes. But
if I took it, then I'll take it.
But it is going to be. Go ahead, Dave.
Avoid confusion. Just name it Ziccy. Ziccy.
That's what I'm going to call
it.
No,
but I think Zikri. I mean, it'd be a little hard for me to take when she's talking to everyone and saying, well, Zikri just will not go on the paper. I mean, it's accurate, but it's going to be a little hard to have that brooded around. But okay, so great. Well, 3 cheers, Judith. Yes, really. Yay, 3 cheers. Happy holidays. So, David, is there... Yeah.
Are we going to do anything on New Year's?
Yes, I think we'll have a table meeting on New Year's because people have been asking for it.
Drunk and tell funny stories.
Okay, great. That's great. So, David, is there another Mr. Sci-Fi question?
Indeed. So, now we have, following along the same themes, we have from Scott Baker, is the copycat effect more zeitgeist or lack of imagination? There's a run of parallel worlds, alternate timelines. For a while, it was The Special Child, then vampires, zombies.
Yeah, I think that there are, I think basically what happens with a lot of writers who aren't original is that rather than looking within, as Ray Bradbury always used to advise me, they just look at what's popular and they imitate it thinking that that'll help them sell it or get it made or whatever. And so what happens is you get a glut of a certain kind of story, and then there's too many of them, and people get sick of them, and then it's on to the next thing. But what motivates me always is what do I want to talk about, what interests me, and what do I have? And there's always the question of how can I make this something that I haven't seen before? And that doesn't mean that I'm not using tropes that I've seen before, like parallel universes or androids or whatever. But it's like I have something I want to say, and this gives me that way of saying it. And there's something in it that is original to me that makes it worth my doing,
But that's not just the writers. That's also some of the buyers.
Yeah.
They some buyers, they look to a genre and say, well, this was popular, so it must be the genre. And they don't realize that it's not the genre, it's the quality of the work.
Yes. But yeah, so there's that. So now on my screen, Dave Edison is next. So Dave, do you want to?
Before you do, Dave, there's a little funny thing here. There seems to be a stream here, a couple of ideas about the Zikri puppy.
Yes.
One of them is Zikri ate my homework, and another one is, of course, Zikri went on the couch.
Yes, yes. Well, the best one I think would be Zikri won't stop humping my leg.
There you go.
So yeah, there's going to be
I'll call HR.
Yeah, it's going to be pretty bad. So yes, HR exactly. So Dave, go for it.
Zikri really enjoyed the tree in the house.
Yes, yes.
Well, hi everyone. To whom it may concern, Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays to all. Looking forward to a brighter new year in a lot of ways, including the people in the White House, just a little brighter. Guess what I've been doing? I've been working on Space Command.
Yay! The perfect Christmas event.
Exactly. For those of you who don't know, and for the few of you who care, I'm the editor of Space Command. So we are moving forward on episode 2, but at the same time, I'm working on episode 3.
Yes.
Mark sent me some notes. We're trying to tighten that up to see how fast we can get that one prepped for viewing, and coming along, working on these notes. Some of these I can handle. Other ones have to be handed up to a VFX expert. But for example, I spent part of the days having one of our synthetics. I won't tell you who it is because it's somebody you haven't seen before. But having a brand new synthetic, combat synthetic, in fact, his eyes glow at one moment for 1 second and 17 frames, 41 frames.
Sure.
And it took hours to
get Christ. Sorry.
These little things in there. And we don't even know if Mark likes it yet.
Yeah. So, we'll find out.
But anyway, so we're putting our what is it, our shoulders to the wheel, is that the expression, and getting this
I think it's
ready for you.
I think it's more like heads into the crusher.
Yeah, I think you might be onto something.
Yeah.
So anyway, moving forward, there's an article that just came out today from an interview I did a couple of weeks ago. I did a phone interview with a fellow who was trying to write an article on a project that I worked on. The first thing, even though I had been an editor for about 4 or 5 years at the time, and the article is called "The Worst Christmas Movie Ever." Not exactly a movie; it was a cartoon, a holiday special, but it's kind of accurate. What I read it today. There are things in there that I didn't know that are kind of horrifying, particularly about the financial arrangements that went into this project. Anyway, if you're interested in that sort of thing, it's if you can stand watching the special, it is on YouTube, and it is if it was abysmal, that would be a step in the right direction. So the article, if you just Google worst Christmas or worst Xmas, it works either way, and you have to add the word Polygon, Polygon. It's on Polygon.com. So worst Christmas Polygon. Feel free to read and enjoy if at all possible.
Great.
So anyway, we'll see you again next week here. I'll be back with any luck. Happy holidays and a preemptive Happy New Year. All the best to one and all.
Yay! 3 cheers. Excellent. And off the whole notion of Christmas movies, we recently got HBO Max, which is terrific because it includes Turner Classic Movies, all sorts of stuff. And we try to watch at least one Christmas movie each Christmas, and we usually go between It's a Wonderful Life and Miracle on 34th Street and Christmas Story, all the usual suspects. But this morning I woke up, as thank God, and Elaine said, well, I was thinking about 3 Godfathers. It's like, what? 3 Godfathers? Yeah, she said, it's a Christmas movie. And now this is a movie that many people have never even heard of, and she didn't just remember the one I know about, which is John Wayne, which was made in 1948. She remembered the earlier version in 1936 with Chester Morris. So I went on HBO, and it turns out that you can watch both of those for free on HBO. Not anything additional to what you pay for the monthly. And so we're almost done with the Chester Morris one, which is really good. It has Walter Brennan and Louis Stone. It's a really good movie. And then of course the John Ford one is a classic. And so pretty interesting, and it is about Christmas and the baby Jesus and all this stuff, and well worth watching if you seek it out.
If you get tired of yes, David.
Yes, Dave.
Not a Christmas movie, but have you seen the new documentary on? I can never get his name right. Chesley Bonestell.
Yes, I did watch that. Yes, and Chesley Bonestell was one of the great astronomical artists, and was a great he designed stuff for Destination Moon, did many wonderful things, and it's a very good documentary. I saw it. I recommend it. So cool. So great. So is there another Mr. Sci-Fi question, David?
Indeed. Shifting gears.
Yes.
So Jason the Argonauts from Lo-Fi Guide. I like that. Jason the Argonauts was on TV here today, the Harryhausen one. Did you ever get to meet him?
I actually worked.
And the Regulus 000 loves those fighting skeletons.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
Well, it's very, very interesting because I actually got to know Ray Harryhausen very well. He was the great stop motion animator, did many great films, including, you know, Jason and the Argonauts, Seventh Voyage of Sinbad, on and on and on. And he came out with his autobiography some years ago, around 2004, and it had an appendix of all these unmade Harryhausen films. And I thought, gee, it would be great to make some of those. So I reached out to Ray Harryhausen, and we teamed up to make a slate of those unmade projects. In fact, I outlined a sequel to Jason and the Argonauts called Jason in the Underworld. And Sci-Fi Channel was very interested in buying a slate of them, and it didn't ultimately go forward, sadly. But we flew to London, Chris Wyatt and Elaine and I, and Chris Wyatt is a friend and table member who produced Napoleon Dynamite. And we went to London and went to Harryhausen's house, which had been owned previously by the producer who did the Red Shoes. And Harryhausen gave us a tour of his trophy room with all of the figures from his great movies. We saw the real skeletons and all that stuff. And it was just amazing. It was phenomenal. He had an original painting by Gustave Doré, who was a big inspiration for him. And he was quite a wonderful man. I've got various photos of myself with Harryhausen when we were working together. And it was a shame it never got made. But yeah, I got to work with Ray Harryhausen. And I mean, I was so lucky to get to know Ray Harryhausen and Ray Bradbury and all these amazing people while they were still with us. And they were as phenomenal as you would imagine. I mean, the thing about Harryhausen that's so spectacular, among other things. First of all, he and Ray Bradbury were friends from when they were 16 years old. They both grew up here in LA. And Harryhausen not only animated, he was the one, he had no team. He was the one guy animating everything frame by frame. Plus, he had authorial control over the films. So at one point when they were doing, I think it was, might have been Jason, it was one of his films, the director complained to the producer, Charles Schneer, and wanted to do something different than what Harryhausen wanted to do. And Charles Schneer said, "You don't understand." I think it might have been the star of the picture saying this. And he said, "You don't understand, Ray Harryhausen, what he says goes." This was a Ray Harryhausen film. I mean, and you can't generally remember who played the different roles. It's about Harryhausen. And he was one of a kind. His works are brilliant. And he was just an amazing guy. He was inspired by Willis O'Brien, who did King Kong, and he ultimately worked with Willis O'Brien on Mighty Joe Young. That was I think the first feature that Harryhausen did. So amazing stuff. So yeah, so that's the long/short answer. So David, I guess you're at the top of my screen. Do you want to take your turn in your Michel DaCosta originals?
Yes, you bury the lead. But yes, this is David Bartlett. I am a producer. I'm a filmmaker. I am a teacher and human rights activist. And I'm also one of the producers of Space Command.
Yay!
I'm also producing the visual effects, post-production. I do the casting. I do the color correction, all sorts of things.
And now you're, yes. Oh, go ahead, please.
Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, and now you've added male model to your resume.
I'm a male model. Today's story is about this shirt. Actually, that's not quite true, but I didn't think of today's story. Oh no, I better think of today's story. So this shirt is Michel DaCosta, our good dear friend in the UK, is an artist, among other things. She's had shows in England a couple times, and she's well renowned. She designed this shirt, which I am told is supposed to be me.
Yeah.
And also designed these pants.
Yeah. There you go.
Wild and amazing, colorful pants.
Yes.
I've actually been dared to go out in public wearing these clothes, which they're very nice clothes, and certain people would probably put on quite a show wearing them. I'm not one of them. But I tried it anyway, and typical of my Hollywood neighborhood, I didn't get a second glance. I kind of disappointed at that, frankly.
Yes. Well, I think given the pandemic, people are used to a lot more eccentricity. I've seen people in their pajamas walking down the street. So, so I think people are a little more forgiving than they might have been in other times.
Yeah, you're probably right. So I'm in agreement with her. I'd try West Hollywood when more people were on the street to see what that got me.
Sure.
In terms of looks, that'll be interesting.
Propositions.
Right. So anyway, so my background personally is that I made my first film when I was 10 years old, and I managed movie theaters in my post-high school days. I did all the plays possible in high school and learned everything I could there, and wanted to go to university to follow my hero at the time, Steven Spielberg and Francis Ford Coppola, through the university path. And it was not my future. I spent 3 months at Portland State University. I had 4 film classes, 2 of them junior, senior level. I took them all. I flunked them all. Don't know what they were trying to teach me to this day. But the process of that, I worked on a play, and I met a guy who said he was the president of the Roger Corman fan club. I said, oh, great. I had no idea who Roger Corman was. And in those days, before I or anything else, to be a fan club president, you actually had to be communicating with people via mail with postage on a stamped envelope and sending it to people and having them send you back. So it's kind of a big deal to create a fan club. So Roger Corman was, and still is, actually, he's 94 or something, one of the great B-movie filmmakers of all time, probably the top. And he also started many, many people at his studio, like, among other people, there are Francis Ford Coppola worked there, Martin Scorsese, Sylvester Stallone started his first film there, David Carradine. I mean, there are many people that came out of there. Also Ron Howard, and ultimately James Cameron.
Wow.
And Gaylan Hurd. So I'm like, okay, let's go there. So he said, Roger said to Dave, you know, in his low voice, he said, if you're ever in town, look me up, I'll give you a job. So he did that and got a job there. And then I followed suit and started working at Roger Corman's studio. And I was a set carpenter because I had a background doing that, and the production designer was Jim Cameron, and his fiance at the time was Gaylan Hurd. So this is like, I don't know, my 3rd month in LA, and I'm working on a film and getting a screen credit, and that's how I kind of got launched. I had amazing people that I've learned from. I took a lot of classes. I met Gary Shusett, who ran the Sherwood Oaks Experimental College. I took a lot of classes there. Gary is a whole, someone should make a book about Gary if they haven't. It's really too bad.
Yes.
Because he was really the founding father of so many people that didn't go to film school or wanted education from these classes that were taught by master cinema people. Like I took an acting class that met once a week for 4 weeks, and the teachers were Jacqueline Bissett, Sally Field, Brad Davis from Midnight Express, and we saw a play starring George C. Scott, and he spoke to us afterwards.
Wow.
That was like $50. You got 4 classes from these big stars.
Wow.
I met William Friedkin that way, and he's the reason I moved here was William Friedkin did a class. And I was on the set of the biggest film being done at the time as an intern to the director. And I had all kinds of opportunities, and those all started out coming from Gary and his school. So then I started working in sound and wanted to work into editorial that way because I got advice from one of my first advisors, Robert Wise, who directed and produced The Sound of Music and West Side Story and won 4 Oscars and was also the editor of Citizen Kane. So I figured he's a good person to get advice from. He's also the president of the Directors Guild for 9 years and the Motion Picture Academy for 9 years, which is the maximum you can have those jobs for. So he was a really important figure for me personally. And he said, you get into editing and that'll get you towards directing because all I ever wanted to do was make films. So I started doing that more independently on a short film, and then I ended up in the same building. Sound people were working there, so I ended up working on Space, which is a Dick Berg miniseries in 1985, I think. And that launched me into what led to a very big job doing films like Pulp Fiction and Speed and Total Recall and Predator 2 and all sorts of big studio films like that. Then I got out of doing studio films and went back and making my own independent films. Now I have 65 film festival awards. And there's a script I've been writing for 3 years now that I've been paid to write, back and forth working with the person who's paying me. And I will probably finish the first draft tonight. That's the target.
Great.
So that's a big deal for me, you know. And I've already got a lot of other writing freed up, and I've got a couple of short films I want to make, and I have several short stories I want to write. That's a passion of mine too. That's been kind of on ice for a long time. At some point, I'll be wanting to publish short stories and that sort of thing.
Cool.
So let me see. The teaching front, I love teaching. I do a lot of teaching when I work with people now because I don't have a class I'm actually, teaching at. I was supposed to at one point teach at USC, but that was exciting as a possibility. And also I was going to get a full-time, more or less job at the New York Film Academy. but I like making films too much. And it didn't really work out to do both. But I still come in sometimes and teach classes. So when people work with me, sometimes if they like it, they get mentored, and I teach that way. So speaking of Space Command, we can have people now, if they want to, get paid jobs on Space Command.
Yay.
And also get volunteer positions. I'm doing a lot of work with sets. There's a lot of sanding and painting being done. And we're getting right around the corner in January from shooting probably 5 or 6 weekends in a row with these short, small shoots with just a few actors. And that'll get us sort of through the pandemic, period where we're, being able to do larger shoots that are affordable to us, that the people that do larger shoots now can afford to have the COVID officers in the set in large numbers, which is what's required. And we have to keep it smaller. So we'll keep it that way. But if you want to work on Space Command in January, then we've got stuff going on there too. The studio's here in LA. It's in Pico Rivera. And if you want to get involved with that, I'm the one to ask. And my email is davefilms, DAVEFILMS @hotmail.com. Maybe Dave Edison could help me by putting that on the chat there, on the overall chat for everyone. That would be helpful.
Cool.
This job of Adams is challenging because I have to monitor 3 different screens at the same time and keep track of the questions. It's fun. You can see I'll do a couple other shots coming up here. I have an actual question of my own I'm going to ask.
Sure.
But anyway, so that's the Space Command part of it.
Okay.
See, a personal story from my career. There was I was taking classes at Sherwood Oaks, and Gary got a lot of donations from people, crazy, weird donations. And he had the classes in a small theater that was for plays, but it had also been a very small movie theater. I think it was just called the Playhouse. It was on Sunset Boulevard. You remember that, Mark? Did you ever go in there?
Yes.
Yeah. So they had a projector there. Someone donated 1 projector. We need 2 to run a film.
Yes.
But we had 1, so they would get a print and show the film and stop at 20 minutes and put another reel on and play the next reel. That's how you watch film at Sherwood Oaks. Well, the projector wasn't wired correctly, so another friend of mine who was there had some experience, and I had been repairing projectors, so we got his projector running. So he started giving me free classes.
That's great.
And that led me to a class with the top cinematography designer, probably of all time. He designed the Disney Circle Vision camera, 6 big screens in a circle. He would stand inside this room and hold onto a railing so he wouldn't fall over. And it was sort of a Captain EO, the 3D volume shooting the precursor. And it was very cool because he had pictures of him shooting this camera he designed with 6 cameras in a circle mounted to a piece of plywood on a station wagon driving past the UN. And that was his camera car. And it was awesome. So he was my first cinematography teacher. And that's how I ended up on the set with Robert Wise. He was my first directing mentor, intern. I was really an intern kind of, and all that sort of thing. And Gary Shusett was like a cornerstone of me really getting to meet all these different people. Warren Beatty and Jack Lemmon. And Goldie Hawn. I got to work with Goldie Hawn, and 10 years later, I got to record ADR with her and actually direct her for about 45 minutes. So that was a big thrill for me. And Billy Friedkin was the first person I ever saw in a seminar. And 10 years later, I worked in The Guardian with him for 3 months up in Berkeley. And that was exciting. He gave me this watch, this Tiffany watch, as a gift. The joke amongst the people who received watch gifts was that he gave us these gifts for not getting fired or quitting.
That's fun.
I actually had a great time with him. And I have a very strange story, which is that the men's room have, everyone stands for that portion of the men's room, and they're next to each other, and you can see everyone, right? So I have now the very, very strange distinction of having peed next to Roger Corman and William Friedkin at different times.
It doesn't get better. So that's great. That's great, David.
Great joke. He used to say, "How you doing, Bill?" And he'd say, "Slashing and loving." And slashing was slang for peeing in UK, right? So I was there, and he came in next to me. I was like, "Oh shit, Billy's next to me, right?" And I said, "Slashing," and without skipping a beat, he said, "And loving it."
Well, there you go. That's great. That's great.
It doesn't get better than that.
No, it doesn't, sadly.
So we always do 3 things. What was it? Oh, the table email.
Yes.
Those of you that are on the table email now and are having a good time, well done. you're on the table email and having trouble, or if you're not on the table email or don't know what it is, you can contact me. It's about 2,000 people that are table members over the years, and they communicate with each other about things they might need or might be able to offer for help. And it's a great networking opportunity. There's also a personal table email for things like I need an apartment and I have a couch to get rid of. Just don't tell Mark that because I'll end up with it. But these are things you can do now. If you want, you can email me and ask about that, and I can put your email in to the table email. Now, to do that, you have to have your first and last name in the table in the email that you submit. If you don't have that, you have to create a new one. And Gmail is the easiest for all of us, but I think Yahoo does not work. If even you can get Yahoo anymore, but that one I think doesn't work. Anyway, so where's Elaine? I have a question that involves Elaine.
She'll be coming back in a moment. She's perambulating the dogs, so she'll be back.
So that's it for me.
Yay! So is there a Mr. Sci-Fi question in the interim, David?
There is. Any plans for a Space Command video game?
That's come up a number of times, and if a video game,
a lot of money in that.
Yeah, I know. But there's a lot of money in it if you affiliate with the right company and they know what they're doing. So if this is something we could.
Anything, doesn't it?
Yeah. Well, I'm sorry, David. What?
It kind of applies to most anything, doesn't it?
It does, yes. But there's certain things where you can be a little more of an incompetent and do okay. Like, for instance, now if you self-publish a novel and put it up on Amazon, you've actually got a powerful platform to sell your books. But video games, they're very expensive to make. And so you really want to make sure that the company knows what they're doing and can promote and all that stuff. So
how about a Space Command board game?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. But as my friends know, that things go best on Space Command when I bring things down to just several major important pursuits. And right now we're working on 102, 103, 104. Those are the episodes. And we just put out the novel, so our backers got the novel and so forth.
Working on the motion comic?
Yes, the animatic. And so so it's all in hand. So Angelique, I see you next on the screen. So why don't you take your turn and say hi to everybody and all that stuff.
Hi everyone. Merry Christmas. Just wanted to come on here and say hi.
Yay.
Chris, singer, dancer. I work with Mark and Elaine and the rest of the team. I'm an executive coordinator in Space Command and an actress in Space Command.
Yay.
It's been a very interesting year, but I'm really happy to be here. Happy to say hi to everyone. And recently had a booking in November where I had the opportunity to go to set and go on the lot. So that was really great. Can't say what it is right now, but onward and upward.
Great. So is there anything you need?
I'm good for now. Thank you.
Okay. And
Merry Christmas to everyone.
Yes. Merry Christmas.
Songs?
Yes, I was going to mention that we just posted on Mr. Sci-Fi 2 Christmas songs that Angelique sang, and Dave helped edit the introduction and all that stuff. And David Rakeland performed ambience accompaniment. And it's great. And thank
you guys again for putting that together. With your intro and then Dave editing everything, and then David Rakeland adding the ambient music in the background. So it worked out well.
Yeah, and I think one thing that's really a blessing beyond Zoom. Thank God we have Zoom during this pandemic, but also the fact that YouTube allows us our own channel is spectacular. I mean, there's so many. You can reach the entire world with YouTube, and it's free, and that's just amazing, an amazing gift, I think, for all of us. So
I think it was such a great idea that you had, though, because everyone is in the pandemic right now. Everyone's not able to go home to their families necessarily, but we can still extend love and positivity through the gift of music or whatever we have to offer. So
yes.
I think that was a really great idea.
Yes. Well, thank you. Thank you, Angelique. So 3 cheers. Great to see you here. Yay. Excellent. So David, is there another Mr. Sci-Fi question? Elaine has returned, and hold on, she's coming back
from the dog walk.
I forgot one more thing I was going to say. I have gotten an invitation to be in the Who's Who of America.
That's great.
Wow,
that's great.
So
well,
I got about an hour interview with them, and they are sending me a book. I'm going to be publishing the book, and I can buy a plaque if I want to too.
Wow. Well, that sounds like a perfect scam. So good luck with that.
Crossed my mind.
Yes. Yes. Exactly. Make sure that America isn't spelled with a K.
Exactly. So, hashtag Day Films asked you, how did you two first meet?
Me and Elaine. That
Yes.
there's a short answer and a long answer.
Let's do the short
We'll
one.
do the short answer right now. Someday we'll tell you the long answer. But let's just say that we met via some dogs. No, we met through a mutual friend when I was in college. Let's just say that. And we'll tell you that. Here, let me deal with these guys for a second.
Okay.
Guys.
Yeah, it was through a mutual friend when he was in college, and we clicked.
Would you like it?
So okay, yeah,
That's pretty short.
yeah, that's pretty short.
Another Mr.
But you weren't in college. He was.
That's right. I was already out of college. I was traveling the world and stuff like that.
So how did
So,
you end up being him when he was in college?
oh, through this mutual friend that I knew him, and we sort of got together. So that's how it happened, because I was taking some college classes, but I'd already gotten out of college and I traveled quite a bit. So I was taking additional classes, and then we all sort of met. That was it. So yeah,
See, that's awesome.
yeah.
You two are a beautiful couple.
Thank you, thank you. And I'm glad, since we talked about singing later, that we have a number of people who actually can sing. And I can vaguely sing. I sort of try and surround the melody. So anyway,
Okay.
I think are we on to Mr. Sci-Fi?
Yeah.
And I just mentioned along the theme of shirts, I forgot to mention when I was speaking that I'm wearing my lovely and festive holiday
Yes.
present from the
Zikris.
For those of you on Mr. Siffy, it says the past, the present, and
the future.
Present and the future walked into a bar. It was tense.
That's great. That's great. We love that.
It's a tense joke. So thank you, Mark and Elaine.
Yay. You're welcome. Yay.
I now have a T-shirt for every day of the year.
Thank God. Thank God. And David Bartlett, is there a Mr. Sci-Fi question perchance?
Rose Kirby has something
Hi, Rose.
that I actually forgot to mention that reminded me of it.
Okay.
She is saying she wishes to know what's going to happen in 2021. Is there any more merchandise going to be shipped?
Yes.
So guess what? In the last 6 weeks, we shipped over 280 pieces. And this morning, we sent 1,950 emails with perks.
Wow.
So we shipped over 2,200 perks in the last few weeks.
Wow, that's great.
So yes, there will be more. Yes, in fact, Mark and I talked today about a couple of the perks that were like really close to being finished manufacturing, and we could be sending those. And there will be mailing perks coming out soon as well. So thank you all for supporting Space Command, and
yes,
we'll talk about that later. But this is it's happening right now. I try to send everything out at Christmas.
Great.
So that we have at that point as a little present, and it worked out really well this year.
Yes, and also if anyone wants to buy the Space Command merchandise like T-shirts, phone cases, leggings, all that stuff, and there's all you can click just below Mr. Sci-Fi on the YouTube channel, and there's a link to the Teespring store, and that also leads to our store, and we're also you can now order the digital download of the first hour and pre-order the DVD, Blu-ray, etc. of the first 2 hours. So it's pretty cool. So, but thank you, David. So now, I guess David Goldenholtz, you're next on my screen.
There we go. Can you hear me?
Yes, very much.
All right. So, hello. Merry Christmas. Happy holidays.
Yes.
Also, Angelique, I love the pink background. I just that's the first thing I noticed when I awesome background. But anyhow, so I just wanted to let you guys know that I've been working on voiceover still, and I do voiceover. I do sound, as in field mixing, and I also what?
No, keep going. There's just a dog.
We have terriers, yes.
I also do PA work, but that's more of a whatever. And I do readings, book readings and all that. And yeah, that's about it for right now because of the pandemic and all that. But eventually, after the pandemic, or right when things settle down, then I want to come down to LA and start working with you guys and all that fun stuff.
That's great.
That'll be fun. That'll be fun. So anything else you need right now, David?
No.
Okay. Well, it's good to see you as always. So 3 cheers. Yay. So do we have another Mr. Sci-Fi question, David?
We do. Should I do this one like Adam? We do.
Yes. That's an excellent impression.
Regulus000 says, Mr. Sci-Fi, what do you think of Robert Heinlein as a writer, philosopher, and person?
I never got to meet him, sadly. I was at conventions that he was at, but by then, his life had been saved by a blood transfusion, and so in order to see him or go to his event or get a signed book, you had to have a blood transfusion. And
you used to donate blood.
you had to donate blood. Yeah, they had to take it out of you. And so I never got around to doing that, sadly. But he was a huge influence on me because he brilliantly, like Ray Bradbury, he wrote books for juveniles that were in all the school libraries in the country. And so I read through all of his juvenile novels when I was a kid. My favorite book when I was 7 was Farmer in the Sky by Robert Heinlein. And I like his juveniles better than his adult books because he was politically extremely right-wing, libertarian in certain ways. But so his political views differed with mine, and he was also very sexist in his stories. So I have problems with certain aspects of him, but he was really a major science fiction writer, and Have Spacesuit Will Travel is one of my favorite books, as is Citizen of the Galaxy. And so he brings a lot to the table. And in terms of his philosophy, I don't know. I think a lot of those 1950s science fiction writers were a little bit limited in their political views. But even so, he's an amazing writer, and he changed the genre along with John W. Campbell, who was editing Astounding when Heinlein first came into the field. But he's a remarkable guy. Yeah, absolutely. So let's see. So now I guess I don't know if Christine Laurie is there.
Christine, are you there?
She's looking rather like a refrigerator. So why don't we go to James Roberts, and then we'll go back to Christine when she comes back. James, you want to take your turn?
Hey, how's everybody doing? Merry Christmas, happy holidays. I'm new to the group. Just wanted to say I'm honored to be a part of this. I'm actually an actor, and I'm working on becoming more of a stuntman as well.
Cool.
Also sing and do gymnastics and flips and fun stuff.
Great.
I don't want to take everybody's time, but I just want to say thank you for allowing me to be on this. Mm-hmm. And I just want to basically get out there, get on a set, and try to basically further my career, as it were. Mm-hmm. I don't really have anything else to say other than that. I mean, I'm working as hard as I can to get in the industry. So
that's great. Now, are you based in LA? Where are you?
Yeah, I'm in Valencia. So like LA, essentially.
LA-ish, and yeah, and with that clothing and hair and the lighting, you look like a young Ludwig van Beethoven. Actually, it's pretty interesting. And yeah. Now in terms of the table, I don't know if you know, but as David said earlier, we're thousands of members all around the country and around the world. Prior to the pandemic, we would meet in person at Marie Callender's in the Valley every Thursday, but now we're on Zoom because of the pandemic. But if you connect up with David Bartlett at davefilms@hotmail.com, he can get you signed up on the table email, and you can reach out to all the members, and it's a very powerful tool. And we've been running this for 27 years, and every Thursday, Elaine and I created it, founded it, and it's to create a supportive atmosphere for writers, directors, actors, producers, etc. So,
is there some place that people can see your work?
Absolutely. So I have a lot of my stuff on Instagram, and I'm working on finishing up my reel and all that right now.
Good.
I can send some of that to whoever wants to see it.
Yeah.
I'm still working on a lot of things right now.
Sure.
But I do have things available if you want to check it out. Absolutely.
Great. Terrific.
Great.
And again, when you're on the table email, you can send that as a link.
Yeah.
To all the table members.
Just say, hi, I'm a new member.
Right.
Here's a link to my work.
Yeah. I mean, because people are always, when it's not a pandemic, people are always shooting stuff. There's tons of stuff being done all the time, and so it's a great way to kind of get into the mix, and so yeah. But great. But welcome. 3 cheers.
Thank
Yay,
you.
James Roberts, ladies and gentlemen. So, so David, is there another Mr. Sci-Fi question?
Not a question, but a kind of a statement question.
Yes.
It was directed to me, but I think everyone could benefit from this. It says, Lo-Fi Guy, Space Command is wonderful. I'm sure you get overwhelmed with submissions, but can an artist send examples of work?
Yes.
Because where too, I'm a painter in the old-fashioned sense.
Great. Well,
so,
yes.
I can give you the brief answer to that. Yes, is the answer.
Yeah.
Actors, painters, whatever you want. Anything about cinematography doesn't matter. You can send samples. I will be happy to look at them, and I'm sure Mark will check them out too.
Yes. Well, several things. First of all, the first hour, for those who don't know what Space Command is. Oh, Elaine, yeah. Well, the mention of Space Command, Elaine flees, which Dave and David Bartlett should probably learn as a technique as well. Hold on, she's caught on the stabbing. Yeah. There you go. Okay, good. No, but seriously, Space Command. Elaine and I have worked extensively in television I've been a professional writer since I was 19, and a writer in TV since I was 21 or 22, and so I raised, some money from my fans, and we opened a studio and we started shooting this great science fiction show that's an inspirational view of the future, a hopeful vision of the future. So we just hit 1 million views on that first hour on Mr. Sci-Fi. So if you go to Mr. Sci-Fi on YouTube, you will see on the landing page the first hour of Space Command, and you can watch it if you haven't. But in terms of people contributing to Space Command, yes, absolutely. We were about to announce a poster contest where people could submit posters for Space Command. So anyone who wants to do any artwork for Space Command, absolutely. And we're definitely open to considering that kind of stuff, or anything people want to do, to build sets. Anything that moves us forward is much appreciated. And so yeah, that's we're always open to talented people and interesting points of view. So yes, absolutely. So let's see. So Christine Laurie, you're up. There you go. Yeah, there. Yeah, go for it.
Okay. Well, happy holidays to everyone. I'm very excited to be here tonight. I feel like I'm really thankful for the table and the members and for all the projects I've done over the last, I think it's 2 years. So maybe my 3rd year. And this was maybe a week ago. I joined LinkedIn.
Oh, good.
Yay.
It's good for social media.
Yes.
It's a really big website.
Yes.
What's going on? But definitely started connecting with some things there. And it seems to actually post jobs to certain studios and certain venues faster than going on other websites. So like today I applied for a job and I was like one of the first 12 people to apply for it.
Oh wow, cool.
A little better because usually I'm like one of the first 100 people to apply for it. There's 1,000 people that apply to it. I don't apply to it because they're never going to get to that. But that made me feel like, oh yay, there's people, there's jobs. So even though the industry is working with regulations, they're still working.
Yes.
So it's really exciting stuff, and I've had the opportunity to continue in 2020 to work with different table members and different venues, and just I don't know. I'm just happy that I get to see you guys, even if it's only this way.
Yes, it's great. I mean, it's I'm really glad how people have learned to use Zoom to connect in this way, because it's just seeing other people, the people that you know and care about, is so important, And I mean, I keep thinking about what it must have been like to be in the pandemic of 1918, because people really were isolated. That was, most people didn't have, any way to get around. They didn't have mass communications, radio and TV and movies. Movies were, there were movies, but again, you couldn't congregate in theaters. So I'm very grateful for what we do have to stay connected in this world now. And so is there anything you need, Christine?
Eventually I'm going to need to call in that marker for the people who said I would be your reference, but not
sure.
yet.
Okay, sure. Okay.
Sure, you bet. And yeah, David, good. There's a hand up. And and again, it's fascinating because I'm writing this book called Greenlighting Yourself now, which is basically how people can be the engine that drives their career, the catalyst. And one has to be, you know, inventive. And every time I hear what I always keep my ear out for is something that worked that I hadn't heard about before, something that someone did that was fairly audacious that actually succeeded. Because you know, most people, when they're hearing about how to make stuff happen, they don't really ever follow through with diligence on, did that actually succeed? You know, so some people say, well, I know how to do this part or that part, but like, did it get to the finish line of the goal you actually had? Because again, it's very important to be cognizant of those things, because all of my friends who, I mean, with my mentors, as you know, the people that have mentored me, my conversations with them were always about, well, how did you actually get this to happen? How did you make this work? And, you know, whether it's Guillermo or Bradbury or Serling, you know, any of them, I mean, it's like they were incredibly determined and very, very clever and very much knowing how to self-promote or teaming with someone who could promote them well. And it's a fascinating thing to study, and you start to see parallels of how that works. And you know, so that's, but we can definitely talk further about that, Christine. So anything else for now?
No, just every time you give advice, and if the people follow the advice, it works.
Great.
And I know I keep learning from the table and from you in specific, because people on the email will go, I don't know how to do da-da-da, and I hear your voice and I type out, this is what you should be doing.
Yes.
And then they do it and they write me back and they're like, it worked. And I'm
yes.
like, it said it would.
Yes. And you know, in that regard, you know, as I said before, my whole process is not to complicate things, it's to simplify things, because I want to boil it down to simplicity, because so many of the rules, quote unquote, of Hollywood are total bullshit and a huge waste of time. And most of the gurus in Hollywood don't know what they're talking about. They haven't succeeded at what they're teaching. And so I mean, it's interesting, because when you think about other professions, it's like, you know, be of use to others, provide a service that other people need, be responsible, show up on time, stand by your word, work hard, be pleasant to be around. I mean, these are the givens of so many other jobs and so many other businesses. And it's so true in Hollywood, but they don't nearly talk about that stuff enough at all. You'd be amazed at how many people flake, how many people want things to be easy, how many people don't honor their word. I mean, it's just, you know, Hollywood, the bad boys of Hollywood get such a reputation, and the misperception comes out that if you're a total asshole, you'll succeed. That's not true, because nobody likes working with those people. It's just like sometimes someone is such an alpha dog that they succeed because they're a total sociopath and they succeed, but that's not the majority of people. The majority of people in Hollywood work hard, do their job, are not a behavioral problem, and that's how stuff gets made. It's a machine, and you have to
Those
be.
People that you just described only last as long as they hit films.
That's right.
Shut down as hard as they can because people can't stand them.
That's right, exactly. And so again, you know, that's why I try and provide. That's why why I created the table, for one thing, but also why I say, okay, this is what's worked for me, and this is what's worked for the people I know, and I don't try and guess, and I never suggest something that I haven't seen actually work. So it's like, so when they say, well, all you need is a great script. No, I've seen that fail a lot. You know, I've seen that fail a lot. And it doesn't hurt to have a great script, but that's not the end all and the be all, you know. So anyway, so anything else, Christine?
No, happy holidays.
You too. You too. Yay, 3 cheers. So another Mr. Sci-Fi question, David Bartlett?
Yes. What inspired, this is from Scott Campbell, what
Hi,
inspired
Scott.
Mark Mullane to start the table?
That's an interesting question. It was I took a class that Suzanne put on called
Suzanne Lyons.
Right, Suzanne Lyons, called Flash Forward, and it was a career-oriented class in the industry. And as part of that class, you would team up with like 4 or 5 other people, and they would be your little pod through the group. And my little pod met every Thursday. And so when the class ended, I said, well, why don't we continue meeting Thursday at a restaurant, but expand it to other writers and directors and producers and actors? And they said, great. And then over a period of months, they all fell away. And I realized that if I just made the rules very simple, and it was about being supportive and so on and so forth, and if I just came every Thursday whether or not anyone else came, it would grow. And it grew from, 6 people to thousands, and now has offshoots all over the country. And so, but it was the sense that people in Hollywood were so isolated and so ground down, and there was so much needless lack of.
And we both storytellers figure that, well, they're not getting anywhere. It's a question of their talent. And they just like packed up and went home to Idaho, and they were like really talented and could have offered a lot to a lot of people because of simple lack of support and misinformation.
And the shocking thing was that all these people went home to Idaho. Some of them weren't even from Idaho.
Yes.
And so,
must have been the potatoes
it was just so screwed up. And but the thing was, well, another thing that a lot of people don't understand is if you are just the continual presence. In other words, I knew that if I said it once a month, it would be too disparate, too like, which Thursday is it? Whereas if I made it every Thursday, people wouldn't have to wonder about it. It's like, if it's Thursday, we're on. And so I knew that if I was there, eventually people would come. And I could not control who came or who did not come. Well, I could control to a certain degree who did not come, because if people, were toxic or whatever, we asked them to leave. But it grew, and it became very interesting. In fact, there was a documentary made about the table back in 2010, and so that's available online actually, and people can see it. But it's just, it's been a great reward for me to see it flourish, and it's just. It's great because, again, another part of the table was no judgment. It's like, we don't make a decision as to who has talent, who doesn't have talent, who's deserving, who doesn't deserve. If you're a writer, director, actor, producer, anyone in the industry, TV, movies, books, you're welcome. And it's just been great, because the thing I hate about Hollywood is its arrogance. It's needless arrogance. And I recognize that what you need to succeed is humility and confidence, linked. And that's what served me very well and served many of my friends very well. But arrogance and being an asshole, no. And so I wanted to help other people. I wanted to be a bit of a beacon, and it's worked out great. So that's the answer to that. So now I guess it's
the diversity at the table is quite admirable.
Well, yes, and that again was baked into the concept, the whole idea. And again, not just racial or ethnic or religious or political diversity, because we've always encouraged that, but also, those of you who are longtime table members remember Jim Troche, who was a quadriplegic writer, producer, director, and actor, and he was a very, very active and beloved member of the table, and and Jim Metropole, of course, and it's like, when you let in people without judgment or without barriers, when you say. And I'm glad that the name of the group is The Table, because the analogy is that everyone is welcome at the table. There's room for everyone. That you don't have to push other people off the lifeboat, so that you'll survive. Sharks are not circling. That's not how it works. It's a bountiful table, and we can all help each other. And so I've always wanted a wide variety. And and when Muslims would come, or political conservatives for that matter, if they came with a good heart, or when transgender people started coming, the thing that was great when transgender people started coming was, I was uncomfortable at first, and that's great, because I knew that once I got used to these people, all of that knee-jerk response would fade away. And now, of course, it has. When I see someone who's transgender, I don't, it's no difference. They're people. And that's what I want to be in my heart. And that's how I want the world to be. So it's not hard. It's a joy. So there you go. Judith, yeah.
What also happens is that you get back from everybody.
Yes.
So much. I mean, I was in rehab. Joe Ramirez came to see me. I didn't know who he was. I'd seen him a couple of times. And turns out we knew each other because I used to do a lot of work at his recording studio.
Right.
But he came to see me and spent like 3 hours with me.
Yes.
Just you put it out, you get it back.
No, and that's a touching anecdote, because he stayed 3 hours until you had security remove him. That's great. Yeah, exactly. And then you wondered where your jewelry had gotten to. But absolutely. And again, I think, I won't speak political. Let's say a certain orange person showed that you can follow a bad leader and he can lead you into very dark behavior. But I strongly believe that you can actually be a light and lead people in a way that leads them to their best selves and their most generous selves. Because I think most people are kind and generous and want to be part of a community where they feel supported. And I think that cuts across every group and every barrier. People want to feel safe, they want to feel encouraged, they want to feel liked. And most people are not sociopaths. A few are, and those are the people that you must shield yourself from. But but on the whole, I think you can create community, and I think we're all better for that. So there you go. So I guess it's
did we lose, I guess we lost Jim.
Yeah, I guess Mike and Jim were there, but we wish them the very best, and I'm sure we'll see them next time. Yeah, well, I talked them to death.
They're having trouble with their camera and listening.
Yeah. Well, okay, great.
Thank you. Great,
and then I guess
great.
Adam Modiano, if you're around, if you want to unmute and to have your turn, if you're there. If not, we won't.
Adam, are you there?
Adam?
Yes, I am present.
Oh, good. Good.
Hi.
How are you doing?
I'm almost keeping it together.
Oh, good.
I'm glad for this today because, like, I'm trying to make up for lost time.
Good.
Socially, like, I haven't kept up with the group much. I haven't kept up with many people, and this was just like a day to slow down and be like, oh, I can check in on this again and pretend to be human.
Well,
ended up getting a day job not long after I was out here. I'm a production coordinator on an animated show I really like, and that's great, but it also eats up a lot of my time.
Yes.
So, and especially as we get to the end of the year, it was a taxing year. Like I moved here in February. I didn't expect any of this. And then, scrambled to find a job. And so I didn't really keep up with things as much as I wanted, like Judith was saying, like, you got to put out to get back or something like that. And
yes.
I don't put out as much as I could, but it's just been an exhausting year.
Yes. Well, one thing I'll say in that regard, Adam, it's not a test. It's like, when you show up, that's great. It's mainly showing up is not so much about being, it's not like a test where other people are expecting something of you. Showing up allows you to recharge and nurture your heart, And one thing I discovered very early in my career, because it can eat you alive, it really can. The hours can become nightmarish. It can take every bit of energy you have, and and it's very, very valuable to find something in your life that recharges you. And sometimes that might. And one thing I found is that when I didn't have time to take a day off, I could find a way to take an hour off and just go for a walk and take in the neighborhood and say hello to people and just do something that was taking a breath.
Also, a new hobby I've developed in 2020 is a very vital one. Is like turning off the lights and laying in bed and staring at the ceiling for an hour. Like that's something I never needed to do before, but it's vital to my week now.
Yes.
But that's really so important because I've been in situations where I felt like really too tired to do anything but the work.
Yeah.
And then I suddenly found out when I was forced to do something in addition to the work, that instead of being more tired,
you were less.
I was less tired.
Yeah.
The energy returned.
It's surprising.
It's the right thing, that could be great. I got this very small freelance work. I just turned it in this morning. I'm helping with 2 short pilot scripts for a friend of a friend, and I've been dreading it for weeks. But once I actually dug into it, it was really fun. And it's not going to lead to anything. It's just a pitch, but it was fun, and I got to meet some new people. And
great.
I'm sure it's not going to lead to something because I actually found myself in the same situation in the spring. I helped a friend of a friend on a pilot. He actually sold it to Netflix, but he couldn't hire me.
Yes, right.
Because he's not there. There are other people at the table.
Right.
It's a very different table.
I get it.
People at the table who call the shots. So.
Right. And again, one has to, as one gets more and more successful, one has to be very careful of doing favors. For instance, I designed the table where once a week I'm able to give this time and spend this time. But again, you want to make sure that when you take on something, there is something, I was going to say something in it for you, and I don't mean it quite as mercenary as that sounds. What I mean is that you just have so much energy in your life, and you have to make sure that something is not just a one-way street. Because again, so that one has to be a little cautious. But now that you've got this hobby of of lying down and staring at the ceiling. You know, you can expand that hobby to go to other people's homes and stare at their ceilings. And you know, I mean, just try different doorknobs until you find one that's open. But seriously, I think as the pandemic lifts, starting to look for ways you can do things with other people, even if it's going for a walk, or going to the beach, or taking in a movie that has nothing to do with your career. You know, it's it's interesting. You know, even with Mr. Sci-Fi, with my little YouTube channel, that was a suggestion of a friend of mine, and it was just because you know so much about science fiction. You know, you can have your own channel. And so often even with Mr. Sci-Fi, I'll just do something that I want to talk about that, you know, it's just of interest to me. So let's just dig in on it. And it's just kind of a fun thing. It's not entirely, you know, me being calculating and saying, oh, well, I need to, you know, talk about Buffy so I can tap into the Buffyverse. You know, that's not how my head works. But the great thing about animation is, first of all, the great thing is that you were able to keep working through the pandemic because it was animation.
Yeah.
And secondly, you know, animation is a very interesting world. And, you know, I started in animation. I wrote for Smurfs and He-Man and tons of shows. And it was a very, very friendly bunch of folks back then. And there's just like, people knew each other. It was, you know, it was not hard at that point to get other jobs. There was a 20-year period where the longest I was out of work was 3 months total.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and I mean, I did segue into live action sort of midpoint there, but when I started animation, we all knew each other. It was a very small pool of people, and you know, and we worked for all of the companies. I mean, you know, back then it was Hanna-Barbera and Deke and Ruby Spears and Marvel and so forth. But yeah. So anything else you need right now?
I mean, personally, I need just the ability to reach some sort of state of calm, and professionally, I would like literally any writing job.
Okay.
So that's where I'm at. I don't know that anyone in the room tonight can offer those things, but I'm just putting out that that's where my head's at.
Here's some advice I'll give you in that regard. 2 things. In terms of getting a sense of inner peace, there's a great Christmas present you can give people in your life, and it's something super easy that no one does. What you do, and you can do this over the next week, call people in your life and just tell them what they have meant to you. And if you get their voicemail, say it there, and just be absolutely sincere. And you will find that many people, it's the best present they've gotten, you know, because our society tends to avoid praise, genuine praise, without any agenda. And if you just call someone and say, you know, I took that class from you and it turned around my life, or you call someone else and you just say, and it's just, and it makes you feel so good to be able to give that gift to people. And so I would urge you to do that, first of all. In terms of writing assignments, well,
part of it is to remember you ain't got nothing if you don't
have the evidence. If you don't have the evidence,
and the thing is that could develop samples, even if it's short pieces, where if I were to read it like on your site and I went, wow, that guy's really powerful, I can use him. If there's something that you can a lot of us get like insecure and modest, and we sort of want somebody else to tell us that we're good. But if you really write from the heart and you start sharing with people, if I see something that knocks me out of the water, I say, I've got to bring that person on board. Yeah.
Well, what do you want to write for?
Animation, like pretty much any kind. I've done a lot of adult swim stuff. I'd like to do more kids stuff, and I have some samples. My most recent is a kids one, but I there's so much more adult stuff now that I want more samples for that are in my sensibilities.
Yes.
I have some, but not diverse enough.
Yes.
I almost had my first. I'll wrap it up quick.
Sure.
I almost had my first post lockdown Zoom general meeting with the studio. And
yes.
I was really timid about what samples to send. I only sent 2. But they wrote back, and like one of the people said, like, "Oh, I read this and I thought it was good." I'm like, "Okay, I'm glad I cherry picked because it's so easy to like come off wrong." show too much or not enough, or which ones do you think they want to see? It's really anxiety inducing. But I agree, having the right samples is important and something I got to work on. And so it was the phone call thing. I owe so many people check-ins, especially around this time of year.
But also, here's another thing you can do, because again, people are still under lockdown, is just make a list of 50 or 100 people whose work you love in animation and reach out to them via social media. And some of them will come back to you, particularly if you're already actively working in the industry. And you can say, I love your work. It's been so meaningful to me. I'd love some advice, because I'm working on this show, blah, blah, blah. And, even if if you reach out to 100 people and 3 respond and become your mentors, if these are people whose work you love, that's a huge win. And most people don't spread a wide enough net with specificity. And you have to choose people whose work you love. If you're just reaching out without a judgment as to quality of work, that can be very problematical.
And remember, you're not asking a favor. You're not asking for a job. You're asking for advice.
Advice, yes. Because then what happens is they become curious. And some of them will say, well, let me read your work. Follow their advice and you'll get a job. And then career, because you did something. See, because most people give advice and the people they advise never do shit, and that makes them not want to give any more advice to that person. I mean, you have no idea how many people I've advised, or they just didn't do the work. And you have to be willing to do the work. And I mean, I was very lucky that I never intended to get into animation. My friend Michael Reeves was writing for animation. He invited me to collaborate with him, and bang, I was in animation. But I wanted to be in TV, and I saw that as a way of getting into television. And then that led me to live action, which is where I wanted to be. But I never looked down my nose at animation. I mean, I gave it 100%. When I was writing animation, whether it was Smurfs or Real Ghostbusters or any of that stuff, I was bringing everything I had to it, and I'm glad I did. I'm glad I did, because now those shows are well known, and the work I did on them I can be proud of. So there you go.
As the year winds down, it just gets harder to find the energy to make those connections, but they're worth it, and it's something I gotta focus on.
If you just set a timer for 15 minutes and just do that pursuit for those 15 minutes with no other, with nothing interrupting that 15 minutes, you'll get a lot done if you do it regularly every day. It's amazing how much you can do it.
Like that. That seems manageable.
Yeah, because an amazing, when you set a timer for 15 minutes and just do one thing, you'll be amazed at how much you can get done in 15 minutes. It's really phenomenal. I'm writing a book now where I'm just giving myself a half hour each time, and I'm halfway through the book now. And so it's really quite remarkable. So there you go. So anything else, Adam?
No, just good to check in, and thanks for hearing me out.
Yes, yay! 3 cheers, Adam.
Yeah, good for you.
So, is there another Mr. Sci-Fi question, David Bartlett?
Yes, from Captain Shannon Murphy.
Hi.
Been brainstorming what I've been able to over the past week, and I decided that at some point in my pseudo Trek series, I want a Borg episode. What is a premise for a good Borg story?
Well, it depends, again, what you're doing it for, whether you're writing it for fan fiction or what the purpose is. Because, again, you're going into sort of, copyrighted areas. But though, interestingly enough, I developed Captain Power for television, and the villain in that was a guy who looks exactly like a Borg. And then, once the show came on the air, all of a sudden we've got the Borg. And it's very probable that they looked at Captain Power and said, hey, let's do something like that. But that said, I mean, for me, if I was going to do a Borg story, I would look at the Borg stories that have been done, and I would say, okay, what hasn't been done? What do I care about? I mean, when you said Borg story, I thought, well, what about a Borg whose batteries are running out, or something like that, where, and it would be interesting, actually, if the Borg, for some reason, the Borg implants were running down, and as the Borg implants were running down, their humanity was reasserting itself, and so they were becoming less physically functional, while their personality, their authentic personality before they were altered, starts coming alive. And you could even do an amazing love story along those lines, where someone either finds someone they've been searching for, or alternatively they're trapped with that person and they fall in love with them. And then, of course, ultimately that person would die. So you could do quite a story along those lines. So that's just an idea.
Scott Baker has an idea. The Borg could go back in time to realize they were begun by Dracula.
Well, there you go. Yes, there's any number of stories, but try to find the emotional heart of it, and you'll be on pretty solid ground. So there you go. So now I think, if I'm not mistaken, it's Elaine's turn. Elaine,
first,
what?
David, did you have any luck at all with getting?
I tried calling him and I tried texting him, and
with Mike, you mean?
Mm-hmm.
No,
a response.
that's okay.
Oh,
we wish him well. Just let him know we wish him well.
Yeah.
So, but
I called him too. I didn't get an answer.
Well, there you go.
Okay.
So it's Elaine's turn. Elaine.
Yeah. Okay.
Go for it.
Well, it's good to see you all, and Judith, I found something that I hope I can swing by to give you, which is this.
Yeah.
Which doesn't, it's certainly not a real one.
Yeah,
but
but this is when Elaine took up taxidermy as a hobby.
It's a hobby because it seems sort of like the right kind of.
Well, sure. Yeah.
So I hope to get this over to you.
I mean, it didn't turn out that well, but it turned out okay with considering what it started as. Roadkill is. Yeah. You can do this with it. So
yes, okay.
Great job, Elaine.
Yeah. So
she's good with it.
I just got some calls back from some applications. I gotta call them tomorrow.
Oh, yeah. That's great.
So
great.
So much for your gift, Elaine.
Yeah. I need it.
Anyway,
okay,
how are you doing?
Well, it's been as with everybody, dealing with the COVID situation and trying to suss out when. But
you have a lot of good news.
But yes, we have a number of things, chiefly thanks to Mark, that are on the go. One is the British piece that I have about
Lord Peter Hayne.
Lord Peter Hayne, the South African. Well, he's a lord, but he's also a socialist, and he and his parents came from South Africa, and they were completely dedicated to the cause of
tearing down apartheid.
Apartheid. And they were that kind of people. At one point, when Peter became, involved in politics, the Queen wanted to meet his mother, and his mother, who was an anti-royalist from South Africa, absolutely stuck her nose up at that and didn't want to meet the yucky Queen, but he had to talk her into it.
Yeah.
So
Peter likes the Queen. He's actually escorted her to the House of Lords numerous times and says she has a great sense of humor. And but he hasn't done the whoopee cushion thing on the throne yet. So we'll see where her limits are. But just to put things in perspective, Subversive is that project. It's a miniseries project. Elaine was hired to write. We're producers on it. It's set in South Africa and the UK, and so
based on a real memoir.
We were in touch with a former executive from the BBC, who is now a producer with a deal with Sky Television, and also another, and also with an executive at Edinburgh Shine. So they're both looking at Subversive now. It's under consideration. And then there's a producer that has worked with Spike Lee, who's also looking at it now. He's an American that I've met at various functions. So it's under consideration at 3 places right now, which is great. And because we're committed to getting that made, and
although it's a lot of it was set in the 60s, it brings it up to now, because the whole family is still politically extremely active, and it's about what cued into for us was that it's about individuals being individuals,
right,
and treating people as individuals, not in any group, and it seems very timely, and
right.
And the great cost of when people turn away from that way of thinking.
Right. And then Elaine's feature, The Voiceless Roar, Barbara Bain read it and she loves the role and she said yes. And now Robert Picardo is reading it for another role. And I think he'll say yes. And we're trying to put together a name cast that we can then raise money via crowdfunding and make the movies. So that is what we're busy at work on now with that project.
Those two, right.
Right.
Yeah.
But Barbara knows a number of people, so she's going to be rereading the script with a mind toward who does she know who might be good for some of the roles, and she knows name actors. She starred in Mission Impossible and Space 1999, and
she's
and so
amazing.
Forth.
Yeah,
she's amazing. Yeah, she's in Space Command now. So okay, so anything
I guess
else?
That's it. No,
anything you need?
Well, I need to hear our Christmas song at the end of the.
Oh God, really?
Yeah.
Okay, we can try that. But okay, great, yay! Yay!
Okay.
So is there another Mr. Sci-Fi question, David?
Yeah, there's 2 things we can hit, and then that's it for me.
Mm-hmm.
I think. One is, do you know of a good tutorial on putting together? This is from Scott Baker. On putting together a demo reel or a demo file. I've never done one. I'm a teacher performer for fun, and here there are tricks to get them seen and watched.
They should be no more than a minute or 2. they should start with your strongest material on the theory that they're going to turn it off before that time. You want it to be, the sound has to be good. The picture can be shitty, but the sound has to be good. The picture should be good, but if you have a choice between a shitty picture or shitty sound, always make the sound good, because it's just impossible to listen to something where it sounds like shit. Beyond that, you can definitely send it to the table to have them give you notes on it once you have a rough version of it. I mean, again, just go online and look at actors' reels and see what you think works and what you think doesn't, because most actors' reels are just pitiful, and usually they're not in the moment. They're not emotionally connected to what they're doing. They're just totally surfacey and doing stuff, pulling faces. The acting's terrible. You just want to be, I mean, shorter is better, and the best material, if that's all you've got, if you've got 30 seconds of great material, that's much better than 2 minutes of something that kind of, what's that smell? Oh, it's that real, so yeah. So that's what I would suggest.
But if you want right now, if you go to It's a Wonderful Life and you watch James Stewart,
he's brilliant, just brilliant. So and you said there were two, David? There's another one?
Yes, this is a double question one.
Sure.
To Mark and Elaine, what was the favorite Christmas gift or Hanukkah gift each of you ever got as a child, or also the worst?
Okay, go ahead.
Well, I think the greatest gift was when I was in New York with a friend, and it wasn't a thing. It was the fact that I came from such a troubled family that it was the idea that you could create a much closer family of friends. And that was the first Christmas I had where there was no undertone. And we both talked about it, my friend and I, that the Christmas of where it's simply about caring about each other and celebrating, that was really a wonderful gift. It was the feeling of Christmas that I think a lot of us fall much more in love with. The idea that we're looking out for each other and thinking of each other and thinking to buy presents for each other and thinking to be happy with each other. That for me, it's the environment of Christmas rather than any actual present.
Yeah, and the worst would be just all the ones you had as a child, right? Yeah, in the amalgam.
Yeah.
In terms of me, the best Christmas is every Christmas with Elaine. I mean, just she's the greatest present I could ever have. And but two things came to mind when that was brought up. One is that years ago, my mom and Elaine and I used to, back when my mom was with us, she would spend the night at our place before Christmas. Then we'd wake up and open presents and then go off to have a nice breakfast. And so one year, Elaine and my mom went to a mannequin warehouse and bought me a female mannequin for my spacesuit. And it was just so fun. And then another present that I got that was really terrific is Doug Hayes, who was the great director of The Twilight Zone. He did Eye of the Beholder and Howling Man and The After Hours and The Invaders. He became a very, very dear friend, and we would celebrate Thanksgiving and Christmas with him and his family. And at one point, when I was financially struggling, I was a huge fan of Arthur Conan Doyle, and I had seen in an autograph shop, it was a two-sided frame, and on one side was a photo of Arthur Conan Doyle with his family on a cruise, and he had written a poem about being on the cruise, and written it in pencil and signed it. And then on the other side, there was this little watercolor of a boat on the sea, and it was expensive, and it was nothing I ever could have afforded to buy. And Doug bought it for me as a surprise, just because he knew how much I loved it. And that was really, really something, to get something I couldn't possibly have gotten for myself that this friend of mine did. It was very meaningful, and it's on my wall now. It's I can see it right over there as I look. So but there you go. So that's and the worst Christmas, I can't really recommend. I can't say the worst Christmas I ever had, but I know the worst birthday I ever had, which was my 17th birthday, when no one knew it was my birthday. No one gave a shit, and I spent the day addressing birthday party invitations for a friend of mine's birthday. And I thought to myself, this is the worst birthday I'll ever have, and at least I'll know which birthday of mine was the worst, and it's this one. And I was living out in Orange County with my dad. He was going through a traumatic divorce at the time, and I was kind of keeping him going during that summer until he could marry the girl that I took to the prom, and that's another whole story that I'll tell you sometime. But it was a really pretty brutal time. So that's it. So so now I guess it's me, wonderful me, yay, me, yay. So so thank you all for being. Thank you, dear table members. A lot is going on. You know, things ramped up during the pandemic. We didn't slow down. We picked up the pace. So we're finishing visual effects, coming along great. Where our plan is to ship it in the next 2 months, along with 101, the first hour. As Dave mentioned, we're doing the third hour in post now, and we're getting ready to shoot more of the fourth hour. We started shooting the fourth hour a few weeks ago. And this is not including the 2-hour pandemic episode we did. Meanwhile, I'm writing Greenlighting Yourself, and I crossed the middle mark, and that's great. And it's coming along fine. And working on the Showrunners Network, that's moving ahead in terms of pursuing this financing and all of that. And what else? I mean, I think that's sort of the main stuff.
And we have one more person.
One more person has joined us. Wow.
Stephen.
Okay, well, we'll give him his turn in a moment. And but that's so things are going great. No complaints. It's a lovely time, and we're staying safe. And someone actually emailed me and said, if I send you our line of clothing and pay you $150, can you mention our Mr. Sci-Fi? And they're great clothes, and I've been modeling them. So great. So I guess that's me for now. And I guess Stephen, you've just So we're getting crosstalk. So whoever's not has their turn going, if you can mute your mic, that'd be great. And Stephen, do you want to introduce yourself and say who you are and what you need?
Hi, this is Stephen Gage. Do you remember me? We met last week.
Sure, you bet, of course.
I'm sorry to bother you. I still have not gotten the interest list, and I'm wondering what's going on.
Did you email Dave Bartlett at davefilms@hotmail.com? Because Dave should have.
Yeah, I did, but he never responded.
Oh, you didn't respond, David? That's him up on the top of the screen. So
I had gone to spam. Let me see.
What's your email, Stephen? So he could see.
Movieprints2003@yahoo.com. I sent it to you.
Movie Prints.
Twice, last Thursday and.
Yahoo can sometimes be a problem. Let me find out.
Okay, he's checking now.
To bother you.
Oh no, not at all, not at all. Merry Christmas.
Happy holidays.
Yeah,
Happy
you
holidays
too.
To everyone.
No,
yeah.
absolutely. No, we want to make sure that you get to be part of this. So it's and is it coming up, David?
I'll send him the note right now. I'll send it on the chat.
What I would suggest, David.
Yeah, send it right now.
Yeah, and
you sent it.
You sent the rules and all that stuff, the instructions, David?
No. Go ahead and send me your email.
Okay,
absolutely.
But also, Stephen, include your phone number so David can call you if for some reason the email doesn't work. Okay.
Okay, I'm doing both.
Okay, great.
I sent you a. Can you check right now to see if you got it?
I got it.
Great. Terrific. It's going to be great. And go ahead.
When should I expect to get it from you, Dave?
David.
I'm going to send you a response right now.
Great.
Thank you.
Yeah, and if there's any problems, just call him and
or text.
Right. Exactly. That'll be great.
Or you can do because your information is what do you do exactly, David? Again, like what's your position?
He's a male model, and he's modeling those.
In some circles, I'm sort of considered head of everything.
He's a producer, mainly a producer. That's kind of the main.
Are you sure you didn't get my email like last Thursday? Because I know I sent it to you twice, and I sent it to you on Monday as well.
I'm absolutely positive I do not have an email from you, but I do know that I'm sending you one right now at this address.
Okay, great. So it should work.
Can you confirm when you send it to me, Dave?
Sure.
Yeah, he goes by David, by the way, because we have another person named Dave.
Dave is
what town do you live in again, David?
What town?
Sorry?
What town do you live in?
Hollywood.
Hollywood. Wow. He's right there. He's right.
I mean, I saw pictures. It's looking terrible right now, and I wanted to live in Hollywood once upon a time.
It's great. It's great.
Depends. There's a lot of parts of Hollywood. There's a lot of great parts of Hollywood.
Yeah.
No, I'm just saying because COVID. I mean, because obviously everything's closed.
Yeah.
I love Hollywood, but it's not open, and it's
the shops are open, but not the restaurants. That's basically how it's working. And
when should I expect to get it from you, Dave?
I'm sending it right now.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, great. Well, I'll let you guys continue, communicating.
Okay, so for those of you who can sing,
thanks, Stephen.
Thank you, Stephen. For those of you who
Elaine
can
wants to sing a Christmas song.
Are there any favorite?
Which song do you guys want to sing?
Chestnuts roasting on an open fire. Yay!
Really? I don't know much of that song, but if you want to do it, great.
Bonnie Janowski can probably play it.
Bonnie? Yeah. I don't know. Bonnie's
Bonnie?
Fire, Jack Frost, nipping at your nose, Yuletide carols being sung by a choir.
Yeah.
And folks dressed up like Eskimos.
You're flatting out a little, David. You're flatting out.
Angelique, do you know that one?
Yeah. Running on an open fire. Jack Frost nipping at your nose. Yuletide carols being sung by an hour. And folks dressed up like Eskimos. Everybody knows some turkey and some mistletoe can help to make the season bright. Tiny tots, their heads on fire, hard to sleep tonight. He's on some sleigh, and every mother's child is he if reindeer know how to fly. Gosh. Oh, I'm offering a simple prayer for kids from 1 to 93. Oh, it's been said many times, many ways. Merry Christmas to you. Wow. Wow, that's just great. That's yay. Merry Christmas, guys. That's I won't make a joke about it, though I certainly could. And so I won't say a word. But great. Well, thank you all. It's been a lovely year having everyone in our lives, and
it's been a fabulous year having you.
Yes, and we will be doing Mr. Sci-Fi / the Table next Thursday on New Year's Eve, because what many of you do not know was that for 20 years straight, Elaine and I put on a New Year's Eve party that became famous. We would have several hundred people invited.
About 200.
About 200 people. We would give them full dinners. We would have entertainment. Each year had a different theme. In this building, it was fairly amazing. And we did that for 20 years straight, and then finally it was like, enough. We're done. And because
last year it was my turn, and it was fun.
Yes.
Yeah, what?
Yes. But so we will be here, same time, same station, and thanks for everybody.
We can all get tiddly and tell our stories.
Yes. Or not. So thanks, guys. Have a great Christmas. Okay, take care. Bye. Bye, guys. Bye, Mr. Sci-Fi friends. Bye. Take care. Wishing you all the best.